Hello guys, and welcome back. If you are new around here, I cover mostly Australian true crime cases, and today's video is a pretty wild one. It was dubbed the mashed potato killer in the media. And as with so many of these cases I cover, there was a lot of conflicting information within the media, which is why I now link my sources down below. So if there is anything that you are curious about or wonder where I got the information from or would like some more information, sources are linked down below in the description. Having said all of that, let's get straight into today's solved case. In 2013, Sarah Tarrant, who was 24 years old, and Alois Roth, who was 33, were in a de facto relationship in Dubbo, New South Wales. The pair had 4 children together and also lived with Alois's mum, Sonia. Sarah, Alois and Sonia had moved to Dubbo from Newcastle, which are both in New South Wales, just the previous year because of troubles that Alois had had with a motorcycle gang he had previously been a part of. The couple had been forced to change their home address several times before this because of the problems Alois was having with these motorcycle gangs, so especially with 4 children, the move was very necessary. Alois and his mother Sonia had actually grown up in Dubbo and were pretty familiar with the area, but Sarah had never lived there before. So just a little bit more about the couple. Sarah and Alois had met 9 years previous, back in 2004, and started dating. They started dating when Sarah was just 15 years old and Alois was 24. Sarah ran away from home to be with Alois and they soon moved in together as a couple. Sarah's mother did disapprove of her relationship with the much older Alois and tried to get Sarah to leave the relationship several times. But of course, she was unsuccessful. By the age of 16, Sarah had her first child with Alois. The couple lived with Alois's mother Sonia throughout their 9-year relationship from what I could understand. Some reports also state that they had a violent relationship and that Alois had a very short temper. Upon moving to Dubbo in 2012, Sarah, Alois and Sonia stayed with an old family friend for a short period of time. And this was a 51-year-old Raymond Roff. Alois and his mother Sonia, who as I said grew up in Dubbo, knew the Roth family because Raymond Roff's son was actually about the same age as Alois and they grew up playing sports together. Sonia also went to school with Raymond Roff. Raymond had actually lost his wife of 30 years, Kathy, to cancer just a few months previous, and he likely welcomed the company and some familiar faces. It was said that Raymond was a supporting and loving husband to Kathy, not only through her battle with cancer, but her mental health struggles throughout her life. Although Alois and his mother were of course familiar with who Raymond was, Sarah had never met him before, and despite the pair's almost 30-year age gap, the pair of them really hit it off. Alois, Sarah and Sonia eventually purchased a house on Alfred Street for the 3 of them to live in and of course the 4 children. And they eventually got a housemate. And the housemate's name was Hamish Lowe, who is actually a close friend of Alois's. They started renovating soon after this. Raymond Roff would often visit the couple to help them out with renovations. And of course, after his wife's passing, he was lonely and he enjoyed the company. Raymond particularly enjoyed Sarah's company. As I said, the pair hit it off. And over time, they became really close friends and they felt like they could confide in each other about each other's problems. And Sarah would often confide in Raymond about her relationship problems with Alois. In particular, she told Raymond how unhappy she was in her relationship. Raymond also spoke to Sarah about his late wife, Kathy, and the sadness he felt over her loss. By January of the following year, 24-year-old Sarah and 51-year-old Raymond's friendship had developed into more than a friendship. They were sending each other love letters. Sarah was sending Raymond explicit pictures And they were even speaking about getting married. By March, their relationship had turned physical and they were meeting up most days of the week, sometimes twice a day. Raymond Roff would later state, "I was lonely. I could talk to her and what she was telling me was what I wanted to hear." In May of 2013, Sarah found out that she was pregnant. Now at this time, Alois didn't know of the affair between Sarah and Raymond and had no idea that the baby may not be his, but Sarah was almost certain that the baby was Raymond's. That same month, Sarah told Raymond that she wanted Alois gone. It was believed that Sarah had simply had enough of Alois and what she was enduring in their relationship. Their relationship did, however, continue. One day in July, Alois accused Sarah of having an affair with Raymond Roff, after, I assume, finally cottoning on to what was happening between the pair. When the situation escalated after Alois accused Sarah of having an affair, Sarah texted Raymond to phone the police. When the police arrived at Sarah and Alois's house, Sarah told police that there was no problem and the police left. And this whole situation left Raymond feeling embarrassed and upset. Embarrassed that he had phoned the police for seemingly no reason, and upset that Sarah had not put in a formal complaint against Alois, despite the fact she was constantly complaining to him about Alois and everything he did to her and just their general relationship. Not long after this, Raymond decided that he was sick of sneaking around behind everyone's back with Sarah and he wanted to be a couple with her publicly. And he wanted Alois out of the picture. So he gave Sarah an ultimatum. He told her that she had 3 weeks to either break off her relationship with Alois or he would be the one that was leaving. This ultimatum would lead Sarah and Raymond to carrying out the following events. We have a cat joining us. What's new? If you hear purring, it's just a cat right next to my microphone. How convenient. On July the 6th, 2013, frustrated that Sarah had not yet left Alois, even after his ultimatum, Raymond gave Sarah a bag of crushed sleeping pills that had belonged to his late wife. He told Sarah to mix these sleeping pills in with Alois's meal on the day that his mother was away. 2 days later, Alois's mother, Sonia Rez, left for her trip to Sydney and she was planning to be away for 1 week. That night, Sarah took the crushed sleeping pills and sprinkled them into Alois's mashed potato dinner. Roughly 1 hour after Alois consumed the sleeping pills, Hamish Lowe, Sarah and Alois's flatmate, came home. He noticed Alois's out-of-character behaviour and even asked Alois if he had taken anything, despite the fact that Alois was not someone that took drugs or was known to take them. Alois told Hamish that he believed painkillers for his neck and back were causing his drowsiness and told Hamish that he thought he was just going to crash for the night. Hamish said goodbye to Alois, not knowing that he would never see his friend again. It should be noted that Hamish and his daughter were actually home on this evening as the events unfolded, but they were asleep and didn't really wake up except for Sarah walking into Hamish's room for a moment and walking out, but it's not particularly relevant to the story. Sarah continued to text Raymond that evening, updating him on the situation, particularly after Alois fell asleep from the sleeping pills. One of Sarah's text messages said, "I'm hoping he drops off soon. I'm sick of waiting." The sleeping pills were, I should add, not so much added to the mashed potato to kill Alois, but they were added to render him basically defenseless and helpless, and just what sleeping pills do to you, leave you drowsy and a little bit confused. Sarah then unlocked the front door so Raymond could enter. She turned off the front sensor light of the house. She left some towels on Alois's bed, and she disconnected the CCTV cameras of her house. And this was all under the instruction of Raymond. When Sarah believed that Alois was in a deep enough sleep, she messaged Raymond to let him know. At around 2 a.m. that morning, Raymond Roff entered Sarah's home through the front door that was left unlocked. It's not exactly clear what happened next, but by some unknown means, Raymond killed Alois Raz. Raymond then wrapped Alois's lifeless body up in his bedding and got Sarah to assist him in taking the body out to his vehicle's boot or trunk for my American friends. It's not believed that Sarah assisted in the actual killing or the disposal of the body. Raymond then drove away by himself from Sarah's house with Alois's lifeless body in the back of his car. He drove out to the countryside to dispose of him at an unknown location. It's believed that Alois is buried somewhere between Dubbo and Nyngan in central New South Wales, which is a relatively large area. Raymond was also spotted driving around on CCTV footage in several locations that night after leaving Sarah's house. To this day, the body of Alois Raz has never been found. Back at Sarah's house, she was hosing down her driveway, again as instructed by Raymond. 5 days later, Sarah and Raymond made a joint missing persons report on Alois and put his disappearance down to his involvement in motorcycle gangs, which did kind of make sense at the time at least. Some reports I read did state that Sarah and Raymond did not put in a missing persons report, that only Alois's family had reported him missing. So I'm not sure what the 100% truth is, but regardless, Raymond and Sarah did reiterate to police their belief that Alois went missing because of motorcycle gangs when they did speak to police at a later date. On August the 2nd, Alois's mother and auntie reported him missing. Hamish, Alois's flatmate, also noticed that Alois was missing during this time and made several attempts to contact him. Police began their initial investigation by looking at those that were closest to Alois Raz, and this included, of course, Sarah, his partner of 9 years, and his friend Raymond Roff, and of course both of them denied any involvement in his disappearance. It wasn't long before investigators started to gather some pretty solid evidence, however. Investigators found a drop of blood in a crack in Sarah's driveway and dried blood in Raymond Roff's vehicle, later confirmed to be Alois Raz's blood. Also in Raymond's vehicle was an empty packet of sleeping pills that had been prescribed to his late wife. On the 19th of August, a fisherman found bedding floating in the Macquarie River, matching the description of Alois's bedding. When the bedding was forensically tested, it found dog hairs entangled amongst the sheets that matched up perfectly with Raymond Roff's dog. A search warrant was soon approved for Raymond Roff's home, and this is when police found love letters between Raymond and Sarah, proving that they were not only in a relationship, but that there was a possible motive for getting rid of Alois. And it didn't take police long to find text messages on Sarah's phone that pretty much proved that it was Sarah and Raymond that had been guilty of getting rid of Alois Raz. The text messages included Sarah updating Raymond on what state Alois was in after eating the mashed potatoes so he would know when it was safe to enter the house. Both Sarah and Raymond were interviewed at length by police. Sarah, with the evidence presented to her, particularly the text messages on her phone, confessed to what her and Raymond had done.
Mike gave you his sleeping tablets.
I don't know if they were his or whose they were.
What did you do with those sleeping tablets?
Gave them to Alois.
Why did you do that?
To put him to sleep.
Raymond Roff, on the other hand, maintained his innocence.
We found a large quantity of blood in the rear boot of your car. Do you understand that?
So I've been told, yes.
Okay. Is there anything you can tell me as to how that blood got into your vehicle?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Both Sarah Tarrant and Raymond Roff were charged with MURDER. We're still trying to not get demonetized on this channel, so I do apologize when I have to spell out words. It only took a week from Alois's family reporting him missing to Sarah and Raymond being charged. In 2016, 3 years after Alois Rez's death, Raymond Roff pled not guilty. He was initially, despite there being no body found guilty and sentenced to 32 years, with a non-parole period of 24 years. The following year, his court sentence was downgraded in appeals court on the grounds that it was an excessive sentence. Roth was resentenced to 25 years with a non-parole period of 18 years and 9 months. Throughout the trial, Roth showed no remorse for his actions and maintained his innocence. Justice Fagan stated at Raymond Roff's original 2016 sentence, "The passion which the offender came to feel for Sarah Tarrant from late 2012 unhinged his judgment. He had been of sound sense and morality throughout his adult years to this point. By every account given in evidence before me, he was a solid, honest, hard-working family man." Roth also had a practically clean criminal record up until this point. Justice Fagan continued by talking about Roth's strong feelings for Sarah, particularly in the wake of his wife's passing, as the motivation for the killing. He stated, "She became everything to him. With her, he felt he could be a young man again, starting over with a second family of her children and their own. Without her, the future was cold, widowed, and alone in a country town. The starkness of the alternatives overwhelmed him." It's believed that Roth has a very low chance of reoffending due to his motivation behind the killing and the fact that he had a clean criminal record before doing what he did. At the appeal, it was stated, "Although it is no justification, the applicant's actions were motivated by his sincere and decent feelings for Miss Tarrant. In short, and as it was stated by the sentencing judge, this terrible crime was an extraordinary exception to everything about the offender's character and conduct up until that date." In a separate trial, Sarah Tarrant pled not guilty to MURDER, but guilty to manslaughter. This was rejected, however, and she was tried for MURDER. Although in the end, Tarrant was charged with manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years with a non-parole period of 8. Sarah managed to get the lesser charge of manslaughter because of her substantial mental impairment. A jury decided that Sarah's moral judgment was impaired at the time due to her mental health. The judge, however, verbally disagreed with Sarah Tarrant's mental health assessment in the court. In court, according to psychiatrist Yvonne Skinner, Sarah suffered with depression and dependent personality disorder. Yvonne Skinner stated, "In my opinion, Sarah has a reduced capacity for moral understanding compared to the average person." A second psychiatrist in court also stated that Sarah suffered from PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, brought on by a history of abuse as well as a childhood of disturbed development. The second psychiatrist, Dr. Carolyn Quadrio, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, stated, "I think Sarah's capacity to understand right or wrong was not at all normal. I think she could judge that the killing was wrong in a very simple way." Just last year, in 2018, Sarah's sentence was amended to 8 years with a non-parole period of 5. The judge that amended Sarah Tarrant's sentence, Judge Peter Johnson, believes that Sarah has a good chance of rehabilitation, stating, "Her offence is of a very grave kind, but it's to be understood in the unusual and extreme circumstances which then existed in her life. I am satisfied that she has good prospects of rehabilitation and is unlikely to reoffend again in the future. Sarah will be eligible for parole next November." So let me know your thoughts down below on this pretty crazy case. Do you think the sentences were fair? Do you think that Raymond Roff's sentence was fair because of... Okay, bye cat. Do you think Raymond's sentence was fair because of the trauma of losing his wife? And do you think he was influenced by his infatuation with Sarah? And do you think Sarah's sentence was fair because of her traumatic past? I would love to hear what you think down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share this video. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I will see you soon. Bye guys.